Hello friends, welcome. I'm going to start a new series about the AlpineJS. It's going to be for beginners, and if you want to learn AlpineJS, make sure you subscribe to my channel and let's like this video because it's going to help me to rank on YouTube. Now here we have, I am inside the alpinejs.dev, and if you go and search on Google for AlpineJS, you can navigate to this website, which is the official website for documentation. Now, what is AlpineJS? AlpineJS is a JavaScript framework that allows you to enhance the interactivity and functionality of your HTML pages with minimal setup and without the need for complex JavaScript code. It is a lightweight framework with small footprint, about 7 KB when minified, that helps you build reactive user interfaces in an intuitive way. With AlpineJS, you can add behavior to your HTML element using a set of directives that correspond to common use cases such as showing or hiding elements, handling events, managing state, and manipulation of the DOM. And as we can see here, if you have worked with Vue.js, it's kind of Vue.js, but here instead of v, we have xbind. In Vue.js, we have vbind, x HTML, xmodel, and so on, x4. So that if you have worked with Vue.js, is easy to understand. Now these directives are written in HTML attributes, as we can see here, which make it easy to understand and maintain in the code. AlpineJS is designed to work alongside with other JavaScript frameworks or libraries, so you can use it to add interactivity to an existing project without having to rewrite everything from scratch. Additionally, it provides a set of utility for common tasks such as fetching data from APIs, working with arrays and objects, and manipulating strings, which can help you write more concise and readable code. If you are using a server-side rendering framework like Laravel, which I work a lot in this channel, or Ruby and Rails, AlpineJS can be used to enhance the interactivity of your pages without adding a lot of complexity to your server-side code. If you are just starting to learn JavaScript, AlpineJS can be a good way to practice writing JavaScript code in a real-world context while still keeping the code relatively simple and easy to understand. Now, the AlpineJS is created by Taleb Porzio, which also has created the Laravel Livewire, which is an amazing tool for building Laravel projects. If you go to the documentation, and let's go there, I want to show here we have the documentation you can go and read about, which is very easy to understand, I think. Here we have directives, magics, global plugins, advanced, and so on. And also you can go and watch you need to buy here, get access to the Alpine UI components. And here you have a pre-made components from the Taleb Porzio itself. I want to show you is that if you go to the GitHub account, to the GitHub repository for this project, and let's zoom it, we can see right now AlpineJS has 23.4k stars, which is amazing. Okay friends, that's it about this intro. I hope you enjoy, and don't forget, if you like, subscribe to my channel and like this video, and see you in the next one. All the best. Hello friends, welcome. Now let's start and work with AlpineJS. I'm going to use the Laravel. I'm going to create a Laravel project to work with that. But also, if you don't want to work with Laravel project, you can work with AlpineJS just by adding this inside the head in the HTML. So this script with the CDN for AlpineJS, or if you want, you can install the module by saying npm install AlpineJS, and then in the JS file, you can import Alpine, call the window Alpine equal with Alpine, and say Alpine start. Now here we have the window Alpine equal with Alpine. Bit is optional, but it's nice to have for freedom and flexibility. Okay, so let's start and work with Laravel now. So let's say I have installed the Laravel installer. I'm going to say Laravel new, and let's say just Alpine tutorial. Okay, it's going to create a new Laravel project. Now, if you want to install, if you install the Laravel Breeze package, which is for authentication, is going to automatically install with AlpineJS installed. So you don't need to install there. Also, it's going to install the tiling CSS, but I'm going to show you how we can do it ourselves. So let's navigate in the Alpine tutorial. Good. And then I'm going to open this project with a VS Code. Very good. We use with Laravel, we use Vite here, as you can see. And here we have the plugin Laravel. We added the resources CSS app CSS and the resources JS app JS. And let's close this. Now let's install the AlpineJS. So let's say npm install, paste that in, hit enter. Then we need to import that. So let's copy, and in the Laravel we have resources JS, and here we have the app.js, and inside here we need to paste the code. So import Alpine and say Alpine start. Save, close this one. And then, because we use the Vite, we are going to add Vite inside the head and resources.js app.js. I'm not going to add also the app CSS because the tiling CSS I'm going to add through CDN. So let's navigate in the views. We have only the welcome, so let's remove also the styles here. And I'm going to paste that in. So Vite resources.js app.js. If I save, and let's remove everything from this. Okay. Now we need to run the npm run dev because we use Vite. So if I go and open that project, which is alpine.tutorial.test, yeah, we need to run the npm run dev, as you can see here. So let's say npm run dev, and now if I refresh, yeah, we have a blank page. So let's go and open also the tiling CSS because I want to have some styles. And let's get started, and I'm going to use the CDN for the tiling CSS. So let's copy this and paste inside here. Save, very good. Let's close this now, and let's start and work with AlpineJS. And we are going to work with the X data first. So the AlpineJS data is a key concept in AlpineJS that allow you to define and manage reactive data within your application. Reactive data is data that changes over time based on user interactions or other events. If you have used Vue.js, in Vue.js with the options API, we define the data method and return an object with the key value pairs. In AlpineJS, the data is defined using the xData directive, which is used to define the JavaScript object to a specific HTML element, and the objects contain a key value pairs representing the data that you want to manage. So let's create here a div, and let's say x data, which is going to be equal with a double quotes, and inside we add an object. So JavaScript objects are always within some curly braces, and then we have the key and the value. Now the value can be a string, a boolean, array, or another object. Now inside this div, let's close this first, and let's say I'm going to add some classes, because for that we added tiny CSS. Let's say to be BG green 400, and I'm going to add margin of 4 and padding of 4, and also I'm going to say rounded. And here let's define the data. I'm going to add a property name, and the value is going to be a string in single quotes, and I'm going to say John Doe. Okay. And now how we can display the name inside the div. In Vue.js we can say in the double curly braces, but with AlpineJS, let's say I want to display in the span. It's not going to work if I say just name like this. And also let's add here, because we are inside the Laravel, and let's go and refresh. Yeah, we have an error, but we can display the name with another directive. So inside this span, I'm going to say x text like this, equal with double quotes, and inside we put the name. Okay, so let's say name here, and now if I save and come here, we have the name. And let's zoom it for you. So here is the John Doe. Now if I add another div down there, div with a class, I'm going to change the class to be BG, let's say slate 200, and the same thing is going to be margin 4, padding 4 around it. And inside now, let's say I want to display also here the x text name. If I save, yeah, we have here another div, but it's empty. And that's it, because the x data we only can access this x data inside this scope when we added the x data. So only inside the scope here. So this is the parent div, and inside the parent we can use the data and not in this div. Okay, so in this code we're using the x data directive, the binding objects containing the name property with a value of John Doe, this div element, and we are then using the name property here with x text directive to display that. And let's create another x data to this div. Let's say x data to be equal with double quotes, and here we add an object, and let's say message, which is going to be, let's say, a hello world. And now let's display the hello world in this span. If I save and come here, yeah, here we have the hello world. But if we want to access to have the data also to this one, we can create, let's cut this, and we can add directly in the body. Let's save and come here. Everything works. And let's also display the name inside here. So copy and paste to this one. Now it's going to work, as you can see. And let's add a break here. As you can see, we have the hello world and John Doe. Also, we can put them in the another div, and inside then remove the X data to this div. And because now this div is inside this scope div, we can access that data again. Okay, I hope you understand now how we can define the X data and how we can use, so we can use that data only in this scope. Make sure you understand that, and if you like the video and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I hope you enjoy, and all the best, and thank you very much. Hello friends, welcome. So in the previous video we worked with X data. In this video I'm going to work with XBind. And what is XBind? In AlpineJS, the XBind is a directive that allows you to dynamically bind an HTML elements attributes to JavaScript expressions or values. Using the XBind, you can change an element's attributes based on changes in your application state, user input, or other events. This can be a powerful tool for building a dynamic and interactive user interfaces. So let's remove this and let's start a new div. And let's just add the X data, which is going to be equal with double quotes and inside object, and here we defined our state. So let's say I'm going to say selected image URL, which is going to be equal with a URL, a string from, I'm going to copy from the Unsplash, and here just select, copy the image address and paste it in here. Good. Now let's close this, and before we bind that, what I'm going to do is just to install the Alpine plugin for VS Code. So let's go to the extensions and let's search for Alpine, and yeah, here we have the Alpine IntelliSense, and install this one. Okay, now let's close this and come here. I'm going to close also this one, and I'm going to say here now image. I'm going to add image. If I say source here, which is going to be equal with the selected image URL, copy and paste that one inside, and let's close this for now. If I save, then open the browser, yeah, we have here a missing image. Now let's use the XBind. We can use that by saying X minus bind colon to the source attribute of this image, and if I save, we have here the image, as you can see. Just let me add some classes. Let's say class to be width of 96 and also age the same, and let's save now. Yeah, here we have. If we change that URL of the selected image, so let's just copy this and paste it here, save, and go to the, yeah, we have the same here. Okay, so this is how we can use the XBind to this image. So in this image, we use the XBind to the source attribute, and we pass here the selected image URL state from the X data. Good. Now let's just do something else now. I'm going to add, and let's make like this. I'm going to add one more state, and let's say just show, and the show is going to be a boolean. I'm going to say false here, and I'm going to bind the class now. We can use the x bind again. So let's say x minus bind colon class, which is going to be equal. And based on this state now, I'm going to bind a class. But as you can see, we have x bind here, x bind, and maybe we have in many cases, we can use also the shorthand, which is just the colon, and it's going to work. So just colon, and it's the same as the x bind colon. Yeah. Okay, now based on this state, I'm going to bind the class here. And let's say if the show is true, I'm going to add the nothing. If the show is false, I'm going to say I'm going to add the hidden class. Now, if this is false and this is going to be hidden the image, let's see. Let's open. Yeah. If I change the show to true and click save, we can see now we see the image. Also, we can use the object syntax. So instead of something like this, we can add an object here. And inside, I'm going to say, I'm going to add the hidden class if the show is false. So let's say if the show is false, now I'm going to apply the hidden. If I save, come here, yeah, we see the image because the show is true. If I change the show to false, save, come here, yeah, we don't see that. Also, you can apply, you can bind styles. So let's say the same colon and style, or let's bind the style in the input. I'm going to add an input here. Type is going to be text, and let's add one more state. So let's say input value, which is going to be, let's say, just hello, like this. And then in here, I'm going to bind now the value of the input, the value attribute of the input. So let's say colon value to be equal with input value. So input value like this. So also let's bind the style here. So colon style, which is going to be equal with, and I'm going to add an object here and say color to be color, let's be red, and let's close this and let's save, and let's see, yeah, here we have a red color. Just let's change the show to be true also here, and let's save this, and yeah, here we have the image, and also we have the input with hello, which has the red color. Okay, friends, so that's it about the X bind in Alpine.js. So we have the X data with selected image URL, show, and the input value, and we bind the image class and also the source based on this state, and the input value. We bind the value and the style here. I hope you enjoy, friends, and if you like, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next one. All the best. Hello friends, welcome. So in the previous video we worked with the X bind. In this video we are going to work with the X model. And what is the X model in AlpineJS? X model is a directive that allows you to create two-way data bindings between form inputs and your application's data. So if you have used the the V model with Vue.js, is similar to the Vue model. Now, using the X model, you can bind the value of a form input to a property in your data object, and any changes to the input will automatically update the corresponding property and vice versa. So here we have the input for the previous video, but we don't see this is an input. And this is because we need to install a plugin for the Tailwind CSS, but we added the Tailwind CSS through the CDN, and also we can add through the CDN the plugin. So if you go to the Tailwind CSS installation and play the CDN here, in the previous one we added this line of code, but because we need also the plugin, if you scroll down here we have try using a first party plugin, and we can choose this one here. So also we have plugins for forms, typography, and so on. So let's copy this and let's navigate in the VS Code, and here on the head now replace this CDN with that one, and let's save, and let's close also now the head here, and let's move, and let's see now if we can see. Here we see now this is an input. Okay, let's start and work with the X model now. I'm going to remove this and start from scratch. Let's create a div, and we are going to add here the X data, which is going to be equal with double quotes and unsignaled object. And here I'm going to define a message data, which initially is going to be let's say hello world again. And let's close this one, and inside now I'm going to add an input, and let's say this input is going to be type text. Okay, and I'm going to use now the X model here. X model equal with the message data we have here. So let's copy and paste here the message property of all data, and let's close. Now if I save as it is, here the message is hello world, and in the input we can see hello world. So let's see that. Open, yeah. If we add here, let's add a paragraph, and I'm going to use the X text to display the message. So X text equal with the message, and let's give it some classes to this one. So class to be margin 2 and padding 2, and I'm going to say also BG to be slate 200. Okay, let's close now this paragraph and let's save. And yeah, here we have also hello world on the paragraph. Now if we make changes here, it's going to update. So let's see, remove that. If we type something, okay, so we can see now in this code here we're using the X model to bind the value of the input element to the message property in our data object. We also output in the value of a message in a paragraph. We're using the element in the paragraph element using the X text. And now whenever the user type in the input field, the message property will be updated as we saw, and the corresponding text in the paragraph element will be updated in real time. Similarly, if we update the message property in our data object, so if we update this one, let's say something like this, also it's going to update here. Yeah. Okay. Now you can use the X model with many different types of form inputs, including checkboxes, radio buttons, and select elements. In each case, the value of the input will be automatically bound to the corresponding property in your data object. And let's create another example here. I'm going to add a div, and let's say a class to be max with MD, and also I'm going to say MX auto, and maybe space Y to be 2. Here I'm going to add the X data to be equal with double quotes an object and I'm going to define the my color property, which is going to be initially to be gray, like this. And let's close this one now. And here I'm going to add a div. Let's say div here, which is going to have some classes. So I'm going to add class width of 24 and age of 24. And I'm going to say rounded. And then I'm going to bind the class. We learned how we can bind the class, but in this I'm going to bind the class like this. I'm going to add bg minus, and I'm going to concatenate that with the my color, and also plus, so it's going to be bg dash my color, which is gray in this case, bg dash gray, and also dash 500 I'm going to say. Okay, and let's close this. Yeah, we need to say not gray like this, but gray like this. Save, and yeah, here is the gray color or a div. Now let's add here a select input. I'm going to select, and I'm going to use the X model here, which is going to be equal with the my color. So let's copy that and paste it here. And now I'm going to add options. So let's say option with the value. The value is going to be, the first one is going to be gray, and I'm going to say gray here, and let's copy and paste 3 or 4 times and change here. So for example, green, and also we need to change here to be green. And to this one I'm going to say blue, and also the value is going to be blue. And the last one, let's make it red, and here I'm going to say red. And let's save. Come here, here we have the select input. Now by default is gray. If I change the color here, is going to update this one because we have used the X model my color, and also we bind the class here to use the my color. So if this is gray, and if I change the green, we updated that, red, blue, sorry, and red. Okay friends, I hope you enjoy. This is about this video, how we can use the X model with AlpineJS for the two-way data bindings. I hope you enjoy, and if you like, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video, and see you in the other videos. All the best, friends. Hello friends, welcome. So in the previous video we worked with the X model. In this video I'm going to work with the XShow and XIF. So let's come here and let's start from scratch, remove everything. First, let's see what is the XShow in AlpineJS. XShow is a directive that allows you to conditionally show or hide an HTML element based on the value of a JavaScript expression or property. Using XShow, you can toggle the visibility of an element based on changes in your application state or user input, creating dynamic and responsive user interfaces. So let's start and add an example here. So I'm going to say a div with X data, which is going to be equal double quote and curly braces, and here I'm going to say show initially is going to be true. And in this div now I'm going to add another div. Let's say div here, and I'm going to use now the XShow directive, which is going to be equal with the show property here. Now here I'm going to say this element will be shown or hide, shown or hidden based on the show value. In this code now, we're using the X data to create a data object with a show property that is initially set to true, and we are then using the X show to conditionally show or hide the div element based on the value of the show property. When show is true, this div element will be displayed. When the show is false, the div element will be hide. So let's see on the browser. This is shown now because the show value is true. If I change that as false, come here, yeah, we don't see. Okay, now let's add here button, and I'm going to use the click event here, and I'm going to assign with show. When we click to this button, I'm going to assign the show with the opposite of the show value is right now, and I'm going to say here just toggle. So when we click this button, if the show is true, this is going to be the opposite, so it's going to be false, and vice versa. Let's come here and refresh. Click here, click, it's showing hide, show and hide. Okay. Now let's work with the xif. What is the xif? Xif is a directive that allows you to conditionally render an HTML element based on the value of a JavaScript expression or a property. Using xif, you can toggle the existence of an element in the DOM based on the changes in your application state or user input, creating dynamic and responsive user interfaces. Now I'm going to copy this because it's similar and duplicate down there. Just here now I'm going to say show if example, and I'm going to copy and paste a change here. Now instead of x show, here I'm going to use the xif. So let's say xif, and better is to just let's cut this one and use a template. And now inside the template, paste that and wrap this div with template, if save. And let's see, on the browser we have two toggles. This is for the show and this is for the hide. And also let's change this toggle show and toggle if. Okay, yeah, toggle show here, toggle if here. Now what is the difference between the xshow and xif? The main difference between AlpineJS xshow and xif is that xshow only toggle the visibility of an HTML element, while the xif conditionally render or remove an element from the DOM. Okay, so now let's inspect the element here and let's see both of them. Here is for the show and here is for the if example. As you can see, here is the button and here is the div. For the xshow is applied the style display none. For the xif, nothing. If I click to this toggle show, it's removed that style and is showing, or is applied the style. So this is how it's showing and hide when you use the xshow. Now let's click the if example. If I click here, as you can see, here we have the div. If I toggle again, if is going to remove, is going to hide, show, or add or remove the element. So when you use the xshow, the element remains on the DOM, but its visibility is toggled based on the value of the expression or property you specify. This means that the element style and event bindings are preserved even when it's not visible. On the other hand, when you use exif, the element is completely removed from the DOM if the expression or property evaluates the false. Now, when the element is conditionally rendered, completely recreated in the DOM with all of its styles and event bindings. Now, the advantages of using xShow is that it can be used to toggle the visibility of an element without affecting its state or event bindings. This can be useful for elements that are expensive to create, such as complex components or large lists. Now, on the other hand, using the exif is that it allows you to conditionally render or remove entire section of HTML, which can improve performance and reduce the complexity of your templates. However, this comes at the cost of potentially recreate the element and its state every time it's conditionally rendered. Okay friends, that's it about this video. I hope you enjoy and see you in the next video. Hello friends, welcome. In this video, let's see the xon, xref, and $ref in AlpineJS. So here we are in the AlpineJS.dev, and if you scroll down to the directives, we have the xon, also the xref here. So the xon allows you to easily run code on dispatch DOM events, and here we have an example. Let's copy this and let's paste in our project. On the body, I'm going to say paste that on, and let's see. Now, if I click to this say hi, nothing is going to happen because we need to add the X data here or put this button inside an element with X data. If I click now, yeah, as you can see, it's working. As I said, we can pass also remove this and just add the section. And in this section, I'm going to say X data like this. And wrap the button with a section which has the X data here, and now it's going to work again. Okay, let's add another example with xon. So here I'm going to say a section, and in this section I'm going to add the X data, which is going to be input with double quotes and curly braces, and here I'm going to say the is open to be initially of false. And now inside here in the flowby.com, I want to copy this drop down. So let's copy this and paste it here. Now if I save and let's open the project, we have the drop down, but if I click, nothing is going to happen. And let's make this work with AlpineJS. So first I'm going to remove this drop down menu. Here is the drop down menu, and we can see we have the hidden class because it's using the tiling CSS. If I remove that, yeah, here we have. But I want to show and hide this based on the is open state. So in this div, I'm going to add the X show we learned in the previous video, and this is going to be shown only if the is open is true. Now is hide. When we click now to this button, let's remove this. I want to change the is open state from false to be true, and when we click again to be false. So the same thing we did in the previous video, and let's use now the xon. But if you go here, we have also the shorthand syntax, instead of x dash on colon, we can use at, as you can see. So let's use that. At click, I'm going to say here the is open is going to be equal with the opposite of is open is right now. So when is open is false, it's going to be true, and vice versa. I'll go here and refresh. If I click, it show, click hide, and so on. Also, I want when I click outside of this to close the menu. Now, if we search for the outside, so let's say, yeah, listen for a click outside here. Here we have an example. We add on click at click dot outside modifier, and let's do that in the X in this div, which is the ID of dropdown. Let's say on click dot outside, I'm going to say the is open to be false. Now if I save this and come here, open, close, open. Now if I click outside, it's going to close. Very good. Let's see again also the xref. Now xref in combination with $ref is a useful utility for easily accessing DOM elements directly. So it's most useful as a replacement for APIs like getElementById and query selector. So let's copy this example here and paste in our code. I'm going to add a section and paste that in. And if I save, it's not going to work again because, as I said, we need to pass the X data in order to work the AlpineJS. Now if I click here, yeah, it's going to remove. Let's do another example. I'm going to add a section, and first let's close, and in this section I'm going to scroll down when we have the forms text area, and what I want to do is kind of Twitter, allowing just to put maybe 100 characters in the message. So let's paste that in first, and let's save, and let's see. Yeah, here we have. Now down there I want to display how many characters we have left, and for that, first in this section I'm going to add the X data, which is going to be equal with double quotes, and I'm going to add an object with a max length, how many characters we want, and let's say to be 100. Okay, down there I'm going to say the span, and here let's say X text, which is going to be equal with max length, and I'm going to concatenate and say I'm going to add a space here, as you can see, characters remaining. And let's close this and let's save. As you can see, now we have 100 characters remaining here. Good, but if I type something, nothing happened. When I type, I want to remove from 100 and display how many characters we have. To do that, we can say here on this X, on this text area, we can use that xref and $ref. So let's say first xref, and I'm going to add the reference as a message, and then I'm going to use the key up. So let's say key up, which is going to be equal with now the max length is going to be equal with 100. I'm going to remove now from 100, because 100 we have here, how many characters we have inside this text array, and how we can get that by using the $refs, dot and accessing this message. Now I want to access the value of the message and the length, how many characters we have. If I save now and let's come here, refresh, yeah, we have 100 characters, but if I type something, it's going to remove, as you can see. So with the $rf.message, we get this text area, value, and then the length. I hope you enjoy, friends, and see you in the next one. All the best. Thank you very much.